Good day everyone. In this video, we will talk about digital signatures, which is a topic under cryptography. Consider the following scenario. We're at the height of the pandemic and you need to sign a very important contract across the globe. However, due to the lockdowns, no flights are available at the moment. Therefore, you must rely on digital methods. As easy as this sounds, you are concerned about the security risk, as a contract could be tampered with while sending it through the internet. The question is, how could you be confident that the contract had not been tampered with? Well, this is how digital signatures come into play. Digital signatures are a type of electronic signature that uses a mathematical technique to validate authenticity. It provides evidence of origin, identity, and the status of a digital data. This digital data includes electronic documents, transactions, or digital messages. Signers can also use them to acknowledge informed consent. It is based on cryptography, specifically asymmetric cryptography, or also known as public key cryptography. Before we go at how digital signatures function, let us define cryptography and how it's utilized. Cryptography, derived from the Greek word kryptos, which means hidden, is a method for ensuring that secret communications remain private by allowing only the sender and the intended receiver to see their contents. It is linked to the process of encryption and decryption, which involves scrambling text using an algorithm and then unscramble it when the message is received. Julius Caesar's shift cipher is one of the most well-known examples of such a crypto system. This is done by shifting the positions of each letter depending on the key. For instance, I'd like to encrypt the message secret with the key D. I do this by shifting all the letters forward by 3, yielding the encrypted message VHFUHW. If I wanted to decipher this message, all I had to do was shift the letters 3 places backwards. In digital encryption, more complex algorithms are utilized, such as the AES algorithm, to prevent brute force attacks such as the issue found in shifting ciphers. These types of crypto systems are called symmetric cryptography, as it only employs one similar key to encrypt and decrypt messages. The issue with this, however, is that distributing the key between users poses a security risk because it might be intercepted by malicious third parties. It's also difficult to offer secure key management for billions of users, such as for digital signatures, hence a new type of crypto system called public key cryptography was created. Public key cryptography is introduced by Whitfield Diffie and Martin Hellman. It's also known as asymmetric cryptography because it uses two distinct keys, a public key that everyone has access to for encrypting messages, and a private key that only the individual has access to for decrypting messages. As an example, suppose one wants to send Maria an encrypted message. Maria must first create two mathematically connected keys, a public key and a private key. Maria will need to send the public key to one, who will use this key to encrypt his message. He then sends the encrypted message to Maria, which will be decrypted using her private key. By having two different keys, there won't be much of a problem in providing a secure key management. Exchanging keys will be secure since even if the public key is intercepted and stolen, it will be of little use because only the private key can decrypt messages. Knowing the concepts involved in public key cryptography, let us now look at one of the widely used asymmetric encryption techniques used in digital signatures, the RSA, which is named after MIT cryptographers Rivest, Shamir, and Edelman. This encryption method creates a key using two large prime numbers along with an auxiliary value. Its security is based on the assumption that factoring huge integers in a short amount of time is not feasible with today's computational power. The RSA algorithm is divided into 4 steps: key generation, key distribution, encryption, and decryption. In key generation, the first step will be choosing two distinct prime numbers, P and Q. P and Q should be chosen at random in similar magnitudes with a few digits of difference in length. However, for the purpose of simplicity, we will only utilize small integer numbers in this example. So let P and Q be 43 and 59 respectively. The second step in key generation is to determine the values of n, which is a product of P and Q. So the value of n will be 2537. The third step is computing for the Euler's Totient function by multiplying p minus 1 and q minus 1. The answer that we will get from this is 2436. Then, we must look for a value of e. This value is picked at random and must be less than the totient value and relatively prime to it. Here we choose 13 as our number. The fourth step will be to calculate the value of d, which is the modular multiplicative inverse of e and the totient value, yielding us the value of 937. From the values of n, d, and e, we could now generate our public key, which is ne, or 2537, 13, and our private key, which is nd, or 2537, 937. The next step after key generation will be key distribution. Only the public key, which will be used to encrypt the messages, is distributed, similar to the previous scenario between Juan and Maria. To encrypt a message with a public key, we must first convert our message into an integer sequence. In this case, we turn the message into an integer by using the ASCII values for each character. Suppose I wanted to encrypt the message hello. Looking at the ASCII table, this will be translated to 72, 101, 108, 108, 111. We then grab the public key 253713 and use it to encrypt each character by getting the integer value of the character raised to e modulo n. Solving this, we get the encrypted values 1566, 1342, 1550, 1550, 1648. After encrypting the message, we then distribute this to the person who generated the key. To decrypt the message, first obtain the private key 2537937 and decrypt each character by multiplying the encrypted message integer values raised to d modulo n. Solving this, we get the decrypted values 72, 101, 108, 108, 111. Converting this back to ASCII characters, we will get the message hello. So how is this applied in digital signatures? The same concept used in asymmetric cryptography is applied to digital signatures. The distinction is that the public key will be used for decryption and vice versa. The message is also not encrypted directly. The reason for this are first, RSA is ineffective for short messages as it could be easily brute forced, and second, it may pose computing efficiencies issues for long messages. To counteract this problem, the message will first be hashed before being encrypted. Hashing is a process of converting any input data of any length into a fixed length of strings using a mathematical function. It is an excellent approach to assess file integrity because a hash value does not change if the document is completely identical, and no distinct document will have a similar hash value. In digital signatures, the hash values will be referred to as a digest and will act as a unique fingerprint. SHA-1, SHA-2, SHA-256, and MD5 are the most widely used hashing algorithms in digital signatures to date. Let us use Juan and Maria once again as an example to explain the process of how digital signatures work. Juan wishes to write Maria an email. To ensure that Maria receives an untampered email from Juan must first use the RSA algorithm to generate two different keys, and then he would have to give Maria his public key. He'd next feed his email into a hash function which would output a digest. His private key will then be used to encrypt this digest. He then sends Maria the email as well as his encrypted digital signature, where Maria could then decrypt the digital signature with her public key, revealing the digest. Because she was able to decrypt the signature, she is now certain that the email originated from Juan. She will next put the email in a hashing function, and if the digest matches, she will know the email had not been tampered with. With a digital signature, Maria is now confident that the email she received indeed came from Juan, and that there were no conflicts with the email. Before I go, I'd want to point out that there are currently two widely used key management encryption programs for data signatures. The first is PGP, which stands for Pretty Good Privacy, and the second is PKI, which stands for Public Key Infrastructure. They differ on the way they authenticate the sender of the public key. PGP makes use of the Web of Trust model, whereas PKI makes use of certificate authorities. Thanks to digital signatures, we can now be confident that the documents we transfer over the internet have not been tampered and came from the person we intended. Digital signatures had indeed made it easier to authenticate emails as it removes the need for people to personally meet. I hope you learned a lot from this topic. Thank you for listening.